Hey, what's going on, guys? Man, Goose here. Got you another video for you as we'll recap the top 25 in college football as week number three is over with. So first we'll go over the Thursday game because we did have a Thursday game, and then we'll go over Saturdays. Let's see, we got Miami beat Bethune-Cookman, and Miami did what they had to do as they go to 3-0 on the season as they win 48-7 over the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. Tyler Van Dyke threw for 247, two touchdowns. Chaney was the leading ball carrier for 73 yards. Allen chipped in with 68. He Parrish for 52. Johnson for 40. So Miami had a good balanced rushing attack. Ran for 240 and 6.7 yards per rush, which is really, really good average. And then Restrepo, his name, 120 yards receiving. Bernard Smith also had a touchdown, 55 yards receiving, and Jacoby George had 5 catches for 652. He also had a touchdown for Miami as they go to 3-0 on the season. So the Hurricanes get to win on Thursday night. All right, let's go. We'll start from the bottom of the pecking order in the top 25. As Iowa faced Western Michigan as they win 41-10. Iowa improves to 3-0 as well as they Cade McNamara. You see, didn't have a really good day throwing the ball. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Only ran it for 103. They did rush it for 254 yards, as Williams had 145 yards on the ground, and then Moulton had 50 and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, so Iowa, the passing attack wasn't great at all Saturday, but you see the rushing attack. Iowa usually has a good. Usually they're really good at running the football and defense. All right, we got UCLA played North Carolina Central, the North Carolina Central Eagles, as the Bruins win 59-7. As Dante Moore had 182 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no picks. As Anthony Atkins, 96 yards on the ground, a touchdown. Steele had a touchdown. Harden had a touchdown, and Yankoff had a touchdown. Also, with Skeely. So a lot of backs had rushing touchdowns for UCLA, 6 in total. They improved to 3-0 on the season as they beat the North Carolina Central Eagles. And I'm curious, what they're in the MEAC. Like, where are they from? All right, go back down and go. We go to Washington State, play Northern Colorado Bears as Washington State. They're 3-0. They win 64-21. As Cameron Ward had 327 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns. The backup came in through 2 touchdowns. Well, they had 3 quarterbacks play actually for Washington State. As a team, they ran for 239 yards, 3 touchdowns. Leading ball carrier was Payne, 81 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Watson also had a touchdown run. He chipped in with 41 yards, and then Ward had a touchdown. Look at the receiving. Victor was leading receiver, 6 carries, 119, 2 touchdowns. They also had six passing six passing touchdowns. So Kelly with a receiving touchdown, Nunnally with a receiving touchdown, Williams with a receiving touchdown, and Meredith with a receiving touchdown. So they had 6 touchdowns from a receiving core and 3 rushing for the Cougars. Man, the Pac-12, this is their last stand, and man, it'd be kind of be kind of funny if they actually win the national title, the Pac-12, in their last season as a conference. All right, we got the Duke Blue Devils. They beat Northwestern 38-14. Northwestern is they're just in disarray. They lost their hired a coach. And Northwestern's I mean they're going to be bad for a while. As Duke goes to 3-0, as Riley Leonard 219 through the air. On the ground, you see Duke ran for 250 or 268 and 5 touchdowns. As Leonard had two rushing touchdowns, so did Waters. And then Jones chipped in with a rushing touchdown, and Leonard was the leading ball carrier, 97 yards on the ground for the quarterback. Going on to receiving core. Didn't have no touchdowns in the receiving core, but Calhoun did have 5 catches for a buck 12 for the Duke Blue Devils. They stay undefeated. So ACC schedule will be or ACC. Their season will be starting soon when they play conference games. All right, so we got North Carolina as they beat the Minnesota Golden Gophers 31-13 as they improved to 3-0 also. As Drake May threw 2 touchdowns, they threw 2 picks, threw for 414 yards. Hampton was the lead ball carrier for 46. Drake May had 34, and Brooks had 25. Only ran the ball for 105 yards as a team, 2.8 yards per rush, which is really not that good. Two rushing touchdowns, but they were able to throw the ball against Minnesota. Leading receiver was McCullum. He had a touchdown reception, 15 receptions for a buck 65, and then but Nesbitt also had a receiving touchdown, 4 catches for 46. North Carolina, I guess they did what they had to do. It's a Power 5 opponent. They beat Minnesota at home. All right, we got Oklahoma and Tulsa. Oklahoma wins 66-17 over Tulsa Golden Hurricane. As Dylan Gabriel threw for 5 touchdowns and a pick, threw for 421 yards. Lead ball carrier was Barnes. He had 68 yards rushing with a touchdown. Chuck also had a rushing touchdown for Oklahoma, and then they had six touchdowns through the air. So a lot to go over. We got Farouk had a touchdown reception. Nick Anderson had 3. Dupes had 2. And then let's see, Farouk was leading receiver, had 126 yards receiving. Also, Nick Anderson had 120 yards receiving, and Anthony had 100 yards receiving. Three receivers over 100 yards for Oklahoma. Man. And all right, let's see what we got next. Okay, we got the Colorado and Colorado State. This was a surprisingly good game. I thought they were gonna beat the brakes off of Colorado State, but they went in double overtime, 43-35. As Sanders threw for 4 touchdowns and a pick, threw for 348. They only ran the ball for 70 yards, 2.8 yards per rush. It's not very good running the football. And Dylan Edwards was the leading ball carrier, 57 yards on the ground. You want to see the 2.8, you want to see the above 3. All right, so the receiving core, we had Weaver had a touchdown, Harrison had 2, and then Jimmy Horn had 1 touchdown as the leading receiver was Xavier Weaver, 9 catches for 98 yards as Colorado drove late in the game to tie it. And also got the 2-point conversion as I think it was did they get the 2-point conversion? I think it was something else. Let's see. I'm curious. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did get the 2-point conversion. Was correct on that. Yeah, they got the 2-point conversion at the end of the regulation. They sent it to overtime, and they won it in double overtime. So Colorado improved to 3-0 as they got a big game against Oregon coming up next weekend. All right, get the Ole Miss Rebels. They face off against former conference foe from decades ago, Georgia Tech. 48-23 is Ole Miss. They pull away in the second half. The game was pretty close at one point, but Ole Miss they scored 14 in the third, 24 in the fourth, as their offense got rolling. As they pulled away, as Jackson Dart threw for 251 and a touchdown. He also was the leading ball carrier. He had 136 yards rushing, as Bentley had 61 and Judkins only had 37 yards rushing. But you had Dart, Bentley, Judkins, and Jones all with rushing touchdowns for Ole Miss. On the receiving core, Jordan Watkins had 4 catches for a buck 19 and a touchdown. For the Rebels, as they go to 3-0, and they got a big game coming up on the weekend against Alabama. So conference play is about to start, and we're going to see a lot of good matchups going forward. All right, we got Oregon State, ranked number 16 in the country. They beat San Diego State Aztecs 26-9. Another undefeated Pac-12 team. as DJ Uangale had one touchdown, did throw two picks, 284 yards through the air as they ran for 191 yards as a team, 6.0 yards per rush. As Damian Martinez had 15 carries, 102. And then Fenwick had 10 for 49. Ungley had a touchdown, rushing touchdown. So did Joshua Gray. But Beavers 3-0 on the season. We go. I got to go to the receiving corps. Anthony Gould did have 3 catches for 97 and a touchdown. And all right. Let's look at the next on the list. Got Kansas State. They went on the road to face Missouri, and they got upset as the Missouri Tigers kicked a 61-yard field goal as time expired. As they win 30-27, so they get the upset win over Kansas State. As Brady Cook, 356 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. Rushing really wasn't that good for Missouri. They only ran for 74, 2.6 yards per rush. Schroeder was the leading ball carrier, 58 yards rushing. Excuse me. And the receiving corps, Burden was the leading receiver, 7 receptions, $114 and 2 touchdowns for the Missouri Tigers as they stay undefeated, 3-0 as they get the upset victory over Kansas State. All right, let's see what we got next. We got LSU and Mississippi State. As LSU went on the road and they just demolished Mississippi State 41-14. I thought this was going into the game. I thought this was going to be a very close game. I thought LSU was going to have really problems defensively with the run game against Mississippi State. But outside of one run, Remarks had 52 yards. Other than that, I mean, we really followed them down rushing the football. They only ran for 94 yards, and 52 was on one play. So Jane Daniels threw for 361 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also was leading ball carrier, 15 carries, 64, had 2 touchdowns rushing. And then Logan Diggs chipped in with 41 yards on the ground. And Malik Neighbors was the big hog in the receiving category. 13 receptions, 239 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Malik Neighbors. Tigers, they improved to 2-1. They open up their SEC slate with victory. They got a game against Arkansas coming up next week. They got Oregon and Hawaii. Oregon, they stay undefeated. They win 55-10 over the Rainbow Warriors. As Bo Nix, 3 touchdowns through the air, 247 yards. As a team, they ran for 227 yards, 7.6 yards per rush, 3 rushing touchdowns. As Whittington had a touchdown and James had 2. And on the receiving corps, Johnson had 2 touchdowns. So did Holden, 2 touchdowns. Lead receiver was Franklin, 4 catches for 83. The Ducks, they got a big game against Colorado coming up next weekend. The Pac-12 is going to get their stuff going. All right, we got Utah. And Weber State. Utah wins 31-7. As the Utes stay undefeated. As Nate Johnson threw for 193, 1 touchdown, no pick. Still no starting quarterback. Still not out there, man. As Nate Johnson was also the leading rusher for Utah. 71 yards on the ground. They'd have rushing touchdown. Glover also chipped in with a rushing touchdown. And then the receiving corps, that Parks, he had a receiving touchdown. And then McLean, 3 catches for 92 yards for Utah. They stay undefeated. The conference plays started for a lot of these teams. And so there'll be a lot of shuffling going on. All right, got the upset. As Florida really demolished Tennessee, 29-16. As Graham Mertz threw for 166 yards and a touchdown. Florida ran for 183 yards. They also had 3 rushing touchdowns. Etienne had 1, Johnson had 1, and Mertz had 1. Florida really dominated this game. They scored 20 points in that second quarter, and really took control of the football game against Tennessee. As Wilson was the leading receiver, 6 catches for 44. And Montreal Johnson had a receiving touchdown for Florida. But and the Gators are 2-1. Tennessee is 2-1. More importantly, Florida is 1-0 in conference, and Tennessee is 0-1. Tennessee, they can't slip up anymore if they want to win the SEC East. But man, really impressed with Florida. The way they played Saturday. All right, Alabama, as they struggle, especially at quarterback. They beat South Florida 17-3. As Alabama struggled. I mean, you can look at the quarterbacks. Neither quarterback threw for 100 yards. They only threw for 100 yards as a team. They did run for 200 yards. Williams had a rushing touchdown. Ran for a $129. Alabama's got some problems at quarterback that they're going to have to get fixed. I think they just need to roll with Ty Simpson and and uh, and see what happens with him. I just think Bama just needs to roll with him. I think Ty Simpson gives them the best chance going forward. My opinion. But they're gonna have to get better quarterback play. All right, we got Notre Dame faced Central Michigan. As Notre Dame is of course in the top 10. They're 4-0 as they beat Central Michigan 41-17. Sam Hartman 3 touchdowns, 330 yards through the air. And with S team ran for 176 on 20 carries. As Notre Dame ran the ball for 236 yards as a team, 6.4 yards per rush, 2 rushing touchdowns. As Sam Hartman also had a rushing touchdown for Notre Dame. As Tyree and Merriweather chipped in with the touchdown receptions for the Fighting Irish. Man, Notre Dame. If they go undefeated, Notre Dame's getting the playoffs. I just think that they're gonna be if they go undefeated, they're getting if they got one loss, depending upon who the one loss is with and how they might get in the playoffs. We got the Washington Huskies as they beat they beat the brakes off of Michigan State, 41-17. Michigan State. Michigan State's another team that's in disarray. They'll be looking for a new coach next year. Penix threw for 473 yards, 4 touchdowns. Rodgers was leading ball carrier for 74 yards. Washington and look at the receiving, 536 yards total receiving yards if you include the backup quarterback. As Duns had 180, Polk had 118 for Washington. Man, the Huskies are a good team, man, out of the Pac-12. Another team to watch out for. All right, we got the Penn State Nittany Lions as they faced Illinois in a conference opponent. They went 30-13 on the road. Drew Alar, 208 yards passing. Didn't have it, no touchdowns, no picks, but they ran for 164 as Katron Allen, 13 carries, 54 yards and a touchdown. Leading receiver was Singleton, 3 catches for 49. As Warren had the receiving touchdown for Penn State as they go to 3-0 in the season. They open up their Big Ten plays 1-0. All right. Another Big Ten game, but it's not a Big Ten conference game, but a Big Ten team as Ohio State. They win 63-10 over Western Kentucky as Kyle Ford threw for 3 touchdowns, 318. They ran it for 204 as a team, 3 rushing touchdowns. Henderson had 2 touchdowns. Trainum had 56 yards on the ground, a touchdown. For Ohio State, Marvin Harrison, 5 catches for a $126 and a touchdown. And so Ohio State, they got a big game coming up this coming weekend against Notre Dame. So we'll find out all about Notre Dame and Ohio State coming weekend. Only a few more games left here in the top 25 as Texas struggled early. Only 10 to 7 at the halftime break. But Texas wins 31-10 as Quinn Ewers threw for $131, 2 touchdowns. He ran for 185 as Jonathan Brooks had 164 yards on the ground. And Xavier Worthy had the touchdown reception. Also, Murphy had a touchdown reception for Texas. They went 31-10. They struggled early, but they scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to pull away. But they have to play better. Another game that was close: Florida State and Boston College. Florida State ekes out 31-29 win over Boston College on the road. As Jordan Travis, look percentage-wise, not very good. 15 out of 24, 2 touchdowns. Did do it for did do it for 212. Didn't have an interception. You want to see. And Hill had 42 yards on the ground. Benson had 38 with a touchdown. As Johnny Wilson, 4 catches, 105. And Bell had a touchdown reception for Florida State, as they got a game coming up this weekend against Clemson. A lot of good games coming up this weekend, man. We've been waiting to find some good games between ranked teams. This weekend, we're finally going to get it. Coming weekend. So Michigan beats Bowling Green 31-6. As McCarthy threw 3 interceptions. It's a lot of it. You don't want to see that, especially if you're going to play a bigger opponent. 2 touchdowns. He passed for 143. Orem 12 carries, 101. 2 touchdowns on the ground for Michigan. Only had 8 completions. They only threw it 13 times. Only 8 completions. Man. As Johnson had 3 receptions for 71 and a touchdown, and Wilson had 2 for 42 and a touchdown for Michigan. That offense has got to get better. All right, then we got the last game involving top 25 teams of the Georgia Bulldogs. It's another game that was close, really close. As South Carolina actually had the lead at halftime, 14-3, but Carolina didn't score at all in the second half. As Georgia wins 24-14. As Carson Beck threw for 269, they ran for 189 as a team. Edwards was the leading ball carrier, 20 for $118. Milton also chipped in with 25 rushing for Georgia. So, let's see. Yeah, Jack Saint had 6 receptions for 71 yards. He was the leading receiver for Georgia. But Georgia wins 24-14. Conference play, well, that's their conference. That was their conference opener for the Georgia Bulldogs. That's it, man. That's your top 25, man. So it's gonna be interesting to see once all these conferences start their conference play and see who separates themselves from the pack. So still don't have a clear cut number 1 team in the country. Still don't have one. Got a lot of teams that are right there in the mix, which is good. Which is you want to see. You want to have some parity in college football, and I think we have that this year right now. Could change later in the year. We'll see. Have a good one. See you next time.